Welcome to the 8th session of the online Permagarden Foundations course, Developing and Maintaining a Permagarden. Step 3. Implement. In this session, you are going to look at how to construct a garden from the design produced earlier. You will be introduced to Step 3, Implement. By the end of the session, you will understand how to construct a permagarden from the design map.
There are 9 steps to follow to go from the design map discussed in session 7 to a planted permagarden. Draw garden design onto the soil. Mark out and peg key contour lines for water harvesting structures. Dig the water harvesting structures and spillways. Double dig garden beds. Amend and level beds. Dig and construct fences. Plant, water and mulch the beds. Water harvesting structures and fences, reinforce spillways, and add additional elements such as mulch basins, animal pens, wastewater, and new trees. The first step is to transfer the design map onto the soil with a stick or hoe. Take a stick and scratch an outline of the permagarden into the soil. Mark the fence line, including where there will be an access gate, water harvesting structures and spillways, garden beds and pathways, and tree holes. Revise your initial markings to make sure there is adequate space to walk around the garden beds, kneel down when working, and use tools within the garden. There should be enough space in the water harvesting structures and fence lines to accommodate the plants that will grow there. The next step is to mark out and peg the key contour lines that will be used to orient the water harvesting structures and beds to the contour. After pegging the contour lines, we can dig the water harvesting structures, including leveling the bottom of the swale and checking the dimensions of the height of the berm. We can then double dig the garden beds. Detailed instructions for how to dig water harvesting structures and double dug beds can be found in the supplemental materials of this session on the course webpage. The beds are then amended with a diversity of organic materials and leveled using an A-frame and other garden tools like a rake. After the water harvesting structures and beds are in place, we can install the fences. It is important to put the fences in before planting any seedlings or seeds, so they don't get disturbed if left overnight without a fence. The beds, water harvesting structures, and fences can then be planted with seeds or cuttings, which are then watered and mulched right after planting. The spillways will need reinforcement with stones or planted grasses before the next big rain to prevent erosion of the soil. The stones and grass help to slow water down and capture any seeds floating in the water. Any additional plants that establish in the spillways will also help to stabilize the soil. After the main permagarden is established, any additional elements such as a mulch basin, animal pens, wastewater, and new trees can be added to the site. More details on some of these techniques can be found in the supplemental materials of this session. Now that we have gone over the steps to implementing the permagarden design, let's go back to being field officers working with a training group on Betty's compound. We have the training group revisit their design map. They decide to start marking out their design from the top of her compound and work their way down. They first mark out a large swale that will capture water running into Betty's compound from the road. The contour lines they had originally done during the walk the water activity are still there, but as facilitators, we encourage them to pass the A-frame over the lines one more time to make sure they are accurate. They do so and make some slight adjustments. They also mark how wide the berm will be and add marks where the spillway will be located with other lines below the berm to show where they expect the excess water to flow. Further down the hill, they mark the half-moon berms that will capture this excess water. They make sure to also mark where excess water will flow out of one half-moon berm to the other. They realize that water will not flow naturally from one tree to the next. So, they decide to widen the lower half-moon berm so that it is in the path of the flowing water. Betty says she will use this extra berm space to plant more sweet potatoes since her goats like to eat these leaves and her family eats sweet potatoes frequently. They then move to the house and kitchen area. We ask the group to consult their design map and then mark where the main protective soil will be. They find a contour line above the garden bed using their A-frame and mark it with a stick, but then decide to move it up a bit to accommodate the berm and make sure there's enough room for a fence around the beds. After finding a new contour line, they mark the swale, berm, and where the spillway will be in the soil. They then mark the fence line. Finally, they draw the rectangles that will represent beds. The facilitator asks Betty to walk around the beds and make sure she can reach the middle of the bed and do the work she needs to, like weeding and harvesting. After doing so, she decides to move the fence lines slightly out on the sides, so she has a place to put her tools and baskets when she is not using them. They scratch an X in the soil to mark where her new compost pile will be placed. After marking the mulch basin and fence, we split the group into 2 teams to peg the key contour lines on the swales, half-moon berms, and garden beds. Each group checks to make sure their A-frames are properly calibrated and then takes an A-frame to the assigned area. As facilitators, we rotate between groups to make sure they are using the A-frame correctly and that everyone gets a turn using it. The groups then get to work digging the swales. One group heads to the top of the hill to dig the top swale, while the other remains near the Permagarden to dig the protective swale above the beds. We go back and forth between the groups to answer any questions they have. We make sure they dig the spillways and ask them to check their work to make sure the berm is the right height and the bottom is level. Before the next activity, we switch the groups so they can see each other's work. After the water harvesting structures are dug, we gather the groups together to review how and why we double dig beds. We split the group into 4 smaller groups to dig individual beds and rotate between them to answer questions. We show them how to amend the beds and level them, and have the groups amend and level the rest of the beds. The group then digs the fences and constructs them. Finally, we consult our design map and plant, water and mulch the beds, water harvesting structures and fences. The group splits into smaller groups to reinforce the spillways with stones and newly planted grasses. We then review how to create a mulch basin for wastewater. Some group members go to gather more mulch, while others take turns creating the hole and berm. Betty says she will plant the mulch basin the next day. We finish the day by gathering the group together to reflect on the process and answer questions. We also explain that we can now begin to monitor the garden and will pay special attention to the impact a big rainfall has on the water harvesting structures and beds. You will learn more about the monitoring process in session 9.
In conclusion, it is helpful to first draw the garden design onto the soil and then mark and peg the key contour lines. Next, dig the water harvesting structures around the Permagarden and then the beds, remembering to amend and level them. We construct the fence to protect our young crops from the very beginning, and then plant the beds, water harvesting structures, and fences with a diversity of crops. After reinforcing the spillways, we can always look around our compound and find other areas that can be made more productive by using the same techniques we apply to our Permagardens. That completes the learning for Session 8, Developing and Maintaining a Permagarden. Step 3, Implement. Now let's continue to Session 9, Developing and Maintaining a Permagarden. Step 4, Monitor.